So today we're going to be looking at the economy. Not the most, fascinating of subjects, but again, it's something that is really, really important, and that even if you don't have a passing interest in either, the politics or at least economy, you should at least, on some level or wavelength, be aware of how your economy is working and what the person in charge of that economy, in this case Boris Johnson and Rishi Sunak and the Tories, are actually doing to the economy. This stuff is important, and you should at least, on some level, be aware of at least of what is actually going on in this country. Because obviously last week we had the announcement that we are officially in a recession. Now, at this moment in time of me doing this video, no other country has announced a recession. So what is going on? Why has our economy been so uniquely hit in such a way that we're now in a recession? And this is what was asked in The Independent just a couple of days ago. So, as I said, this is from The Independent, and it's recession. Why has the UK been hit so badly, and what must the government do to restore confidence? So the UK has gone through a significantly worse recession than any of the other wealthy nations that make up the G7, new data confirmed on Wednesday. While there were clear signs of a rebound in June as workers returned to factories, construction sites and high streets, the UK finds itself in attempting to drag itself up from a worse position than other comparable countries. And we must ask ourselves why. It would... Why are you... Go away. I don't understand what happened there. Sorry, an annoying advert just popped up and just like... What? Anyway. Yes. So we must ask ourselves why. It would be foolish to ascribe certainty to theories at this point. Even the hard data that we have is being revised by the week. The UK's reliance on consumer services, which often require face-to-face contact, is one factor in the deeper than expected of the contraction. Yet, that is not a significant explanation. Deep declines were often experienced across the board in services, construction and manufacturing. Another question that is important to ask is the weight given by the GDP numbers, that the UK entered lockdown too late, and when it did so, the government was too timid in its measures to control the virus. In doing so, it allowed COVID-19 to spread much wider than it otherwise would have done, necessitating a longer shutdown. The consequences among economists is that Britain's economic slump, the deepest on record, was in part due to the length of time the country's businesses were forced to close. In seeking to err on the side of professional freedom, the government likely achieved precisely the opposite of a longer than necessary curtailment of our liberties and deeper than necessary to hit our livelihoods. And in those critical weeks in early March, as other countries quickly enacted draconian but necessary policies, Boris Johnson was taking selfies with Philip Schofield and Holly Willoughby on television, saying that perhaps the country could take the virus on the chin and let it spread through the population. But he hasn't added that he wasn't just sure just yet. Of course, of all the big decisions made at the time were the difficult ones. However, with one of the worst death rates in the world and now the deepest economic slump, bar Spain, a central premise of much of the government's thinking on lockdown appears shakier more than ever. The idea that there is a trade-off between the economy and public health, in fact, the former cannot thrive unless the latter is prioritised. The anti-lockdown purists will again point to Sweden, which took a more laissez-faire approach and is now seeing deaths come down dramatically. But there too, economic activity has slumped only slightly less than its Nordic neighbours, despite many times more deaths. China, by contrast, has avoided a recession altogether, after being far too slow to publicly acknowledge the severity of the coronavirus crisis, which began in its midst. The country introduced perhaps the most comprehensive lockdown anywhere in the world. Now its economy is growing again. So what next for the UK? Many in government will be hoping that the memory of the previous missteps and the flip-flops, dithering and delay will be erased as life for people at least gets back to something like normal. But the key thing holding back the economy from getting back to growth is, as ever, uncertainty. People worried that they might die from the virus won't go out. Workers worried they won't have a job will hold back on spending. Businesses worried that they won't have any customers, won't invest or hire new staff. It's up to the government to instill confidence on these issues, but ministers seem yet again to be losing that battle. Just as public health messaging has been marked by confusion, contradictions and U-turns, there are reports that the government is set to waver on the economy. The certainty of Rishi Sunak's whatever it takes message was exactly what the country needed during lockdown, but it has been slowly watered down as the moment of real pain approaches. The Chancellor is reportedly preparing a public spending squeeze this autumn. Oh geez, more austerity you say? Who'd have thought? I only just went on my live stream last week about this. More austerity, and that's going to make things even worse for people in this country. That will be the exact moment, the moment that furlough support is withdrawn and hundreds of thousands, perhaps millions of workers are likely to lose their jobs and demanding spending out of the economy. This demand will crush what will be exasperated by the fact that the UK has one of the largest generous benefit systems in the world. At this point, the government should be seeking to invest to help stimulate demand and pick up the slack. It should be reassuring viable businesses that they will be supported and considering further targeted to help sectors most in danger. It should also be laying out a considerable long-term plan for real large-scale investment to spur the recovery further than rehashing its old infrastructure spending plans and pretending that they're new. To take an alternative approach and focus on short-term budgetary discipline would be to compound the previous errors and condemn the UK to a slow recovery and an unnecessarily deep recession. Sound familiar? It should do. This is exactly what the Tories did when they took power during the coalition. Prepare for it when the autumn budget comes for the stories about, recession is here again. And the October deadline for, obviously, furlough ending, that's going to cause even more damage because the virus is still out there. It's not gone anywhere. We are worried increasingly about a second spike that could cause huge, even more numbers of deaths, and that's really worrying. And we have the completely wrong government in charge for this. And a lot of people in the north, I really do hope that, next election that, you might have voted Tory for the first time, but you're about to learn the really hard lessons of what's about to happen when you vote these guys in. They don't care about you. They care about short-term gains and short-term wins. They don't think long-term. They don't think, spending money is a good idea. Oh yeah, they'll spend money, but not the amount of money that they need to spend. And there we are. So hard times are coming for the UK. It is going to be, a nightmare. I think if you thought 2008 to, what was it, 2008, 2009, when we had the original financial crash, I think the next coming years are going to be even worse. But yeah. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you all next time.